Very good afternoon, everyone. Jeremy here, quantstrategic.com.sg. And today I will be talking about the three major banks in Singapore, the DBS Bank, OCBC, and UOB Bank. And starting with DBS Bank, the code is D05 on the Straits Times Index. And since 1988, where the data from this chart exists, you can see a basic uptrend for the past 3 decades with an all-time high of $31.27. And to zoom in on the latest action, during the pandemic, DBS Bank touched the low of $16.76 and then staged a very nice recovery all the way up to its pivot at 26.74. And what's important to take note is that you'll notice that the super trend line pivot at 26.74 is just where the stock closed for the end of February. Looking very positive, in a break of 26.74 will immediately give way to a test of 28.69, which was the high in 2019, just before the pandemic, and as well as quite close to the all-time high of 31.27. And if you actually scroll back and look at the perspective of what DBS Bank has been doing over the past 3 decades, it has been essentially moving upwards. And a stock like DBS Bank does have some prospects and momentum in the long term to hit its all-time high targets, assuming that we break, first of all, 26.74, and number two, you'll notice that the month of February and January, we did close above the SSSA line on the cloud. All right, so a break the super trend line and a close above the cloud line will be able to give way to a test of 28.69 initially, and then a quick test of 31.27. Now we go on to the second bank, OCBC, which is on STI index as O39. You can see since 2006, OCBC, like DBS Bank, has been on an uptrend with a little bit of kink, with a little bit of corrections at about this level. In 2016, the pandemic lows, as well as the low of Lehman, which is about $4. All right. So all the dips have been bought, and the stock has closed essentially at an all-time high of $14.03. So what is important right now to take note of is that you can see that after the pandemic drop, where the stock touched $7.75, we had a very nice recovery, just like DBS Bank. And guess what? It's also sitting at the pivot at $10.98. So what we want to see is for OCBC, just like DBS Bank, to break this super trend line, okay, and continue on to test $12.20, all right, which was its last high in 2019, just like DBS, and perhaps test the all-time highs at 14.03. So for OCBC Bank, there's a little bit more of work to do because the price closed within the SSSB line cloud, which is between the SSSB line as well as the SSSA line. So we need to have the stock trade above the cloud, all right, so that we'll be able to have a little bit of relative strength, break the super trend line at 10.98 to hit to our first target of 12.20, and perhaps test the all-time highs at 14.03. And finally, UOB Bank, U11 on the STI index, very beautiful uptrend since 1988. And for the past 33 years, just like DBS Bank and OCBC Bank, we've been in an uptrend, all right, with lows in 1998 during the Thai financial crisis, 2008 during Lehman, and of course of late the recent pandemic, about $16-17 at the pandemic low, with an all-time high of $30.34. Bearing in mind that the stock actually started and listed at $2, so excellent investment for the past 30 years. So zooming in to what has happened for the past 2 years, we had a pandemic low at about $17, and the stock has also recovered just like DBS and OCBC Bank to its pivot point at 25.65. And just like OCBC, the stock is still within the SSSA line and the SSSB line of cloud. We need to break above 25.65, push above the cloud, and trade in this region for it to hit its all-time high of $30.34. So after a break of 25.65, the first level to break will be 27.93, which was the high in 2019, and thereafter $30.31 if the recovery is on track. So as a summary and a recap, DBS Bank, we want to see a break of the pivot at 26.74, then a test of 28.69, and then an all-time high at 31.27. For OCBC Bank, we want to see a break of the pivot at $10.98, test the 2019 highs at 12.20, and then ultimately the all-time highs at 14.03. And finally for UOB Bank, break the pivot at $25.65, break the 2019 highs, and then the all-time highs at 30.34. So if you notice that the bond yields in the US of late has been rising, so this means increase in interest rates, and there's usually a advantages for banks to have interest rates moving up so that their revenue goes up. All right, so thanks very much for watching. And just remember to click like on this video and subscribe to YouTube channels, and I'll have a bit of coverage on my blog on strategic.com.sg for you to have levels to watch as you buy and hold this particular stock. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for watching.